One of the things that you do when you create a scene tab in SketchUp is you are letting that scene tab know that that's the style you want to save. So as I add new styles to this, just in playing around and seeing what style I like, and I want to go back to my original shot or my original scene, if I click on that scene, so in this case I'm clicking on entry, that's going to give me back my original style that I had applied within that model. So now if I look at what I have in my home collection, this is what I've got here, and I click on the options, what I can do within that group of styles by clicking on the little button next to the in model, I have a choice to purge unused. So I'm going to click on purge unused, and that's going to get rid of all of the styles that I haven't actually applied to a scene. If I want to mix my own style for this scene and make it a little tiny bit more interesting, what I would advise doing is I would advise duplicating this style by right-clicking on it and going to make a copy. And now this is the scene I'm going to, or the style I'm going to edit for this scene. So I would also recommend going to Window, Scenes, and adding, go ahead, click on Don't Generate for that, and adding a new scene that's called Entry with the specific style that I'm going to add. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Add here, and I'm going to call this, let's go ahead and make this a little bigger. I'm going to call this Entry, and then underscore, and I'm just going to right click style, or type in style 1, enter. So I have the same shot here, but in this shot what I'm going to do is I'm going to update this style. So I'm going to go and I'm going to edit this now. Look at some of the things that you can do when you want to edit a style. Let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit so we can see kind of the whole thing. So I can go in and I can edit the thickness of the lines. So if I want the lines to be a little bit thicker, typically when you start in SketchUp for the first time, one of your default styles has you at profiles where it's a 2-point profile. This gives me just a little bit of a thicker line. Now notice already it wants to update that style because I've adjusted it a little bit. I can also click on, let's just try clicking on all of these and see what happens. If I click on everything, if I've got it all going, I get this really, really, really muddy line, and it's really, really very difficult to see. So I've got a little jitter going in my line. I've got this really, really thick 9-point endpoint thing happening. I've got the lines extending. So I'm going to uncheck all of those because those are not really something I want. One thing I recommend sometimes is you can change the actual color of the line. So I like to lighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to choose this as like a kind of a more soft graphite color. So you can actually change the color of your line. And then if you look in this section, what I can do is I can start to adjust some of the basic things that are inherent in the model, such as what the front color and what the back color are. You can see here, this is where we get our cream color and our kind of lavender gray to show what the back is. So you can adjust those if you so wish. You can also adjust it so that the sky is either on or off. You can change the color of the sky, and you can also adjust the color of the background if you want. So you can really make this whole landscape look however you want in terms of coloring. You can also add a watermark, which is a little advanced, so I don't want to waste too much time getting into this. But if you want to play around with it, you can insert a file such that it will stay on the bottom corner. If you want to put your own name and your business card or any of that information in there, you can create a little watermark for that. You can also put an overlay over this, so it gives it kind of a rough graphite paper kind of a feel. There's all sorts of options for that. And last but not least, you can control what the colors of all the things are when they're selected, locked, what color the guides are, what color the active sections, all that stuff. You can also bump up the section cut width here. So now that I've started to adjust this, I'm going to work on the next level of editing a style, which is mixing, and this is my favorite. So if I'm back kind of towards what my view is, and I go to mix here, I can start to sample out of the existing styles some of the elements that I might like. For instance, the sketchy edge. I might like the sketchy edge of this style, this brushstroke style, so I can pull this style up into my edge settings, and that's going to apply the edge settings from that style into this new style that I've created. And it's going to take a moment because this is getting a little bit more complex. But now what I'm doing is I'm allowing whatever was inherent in that edge style to happen within this style. Let me go ahead and move this out of the way so that's a little bit more obvious. I can also, if I like something, like let's go with our standard assorted styles. Let's say I like the kind of vignette look that this PSO vignette style gives. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to pull this into my watermark because I know that that vignette element is created by using a watermark. So I'm going to stick that in the watermark settings, and that should apply that same vignette element to the edges of this. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to update this. I mean, I could go on and I could keep doing this forever and ultimately come up with an infinite number of styles. So I've now updated this. I should also probably call this style 1 just for me for this file, and then I'm going to have to update that again because I've created this style specific to this. I want this style to be what happens when I click on this scene. So now I'm going to go ahead and close that down. This is not a style I would use to work in, but this is a style I might present my final project. But when I'm working, I'm going to click back on my entry because my entry is saved with a really basic style that allows me to move a lot faster. If I went to my entry style 1 and tried to work, it's going to drag and it's going to take a lot of time for me because it's having to remember and render all of these lines with that vignette and that style the whole time, and I don't want to be working this way. So this is just what I'm going to do when I'm ready to present.